This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey Darklings, Kaylin here. We know our generation has a surplus of pretty darkness in common, and if there's one thing unpacking our upbringing has taught us, it's just how essential therapy is for shining a flashlight on the darkness in our own lives. I don't know where I'd be without mine. I believe every human can benefit from the perspective of a licensed therapist. Whether you're familiar with your own inner workings or you're just looking for a listening ear, you can give BetterHelp online therapy a try by going to betterhelp.com/prettydark and receive 10% off your first month. I get that online therapy can be tricky, but I've been seeing my therapist online since 2020, and I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely worth it. Getting started is always the hardest part, and BetterHelp makes that easy. You can begin right from your phone or computer in whatever way makes you most comfortable, via good old-fashioned phone calls, video chats, or even messaging, if that's more your style. We enjoy this frightful nostalgia and learning about how it all connects, but Darklings know we're also passionate about healing and growing from what we learn. If you dare to do the same, head to betterhelp.com/prettydark. There you can answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who has years of experience helping people like us. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time, so you're sure to find the right connection. Millennials are ditching the stigma and owning our mental health. And with BetterHelp, you can build a relationship with a professional all from the comfort of your own home, just how we like it. Visit betterhelp.com/prettydark or choose That's Pretty Dark podcast during sign up and enjoy 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/prettydark.
For lo, alone on the roof of that 88th Street building lived a creature, half man and half bird, known only as Pigeon.
You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
The podcast where we talk about all the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders
and under our beds
and in our closets.
And together we'll realize, whoa, that's pretty dark.
So, there was one question from our New Year's campfire chat that came one episode too soon.
What question?
The one about which character from something you've covered so far you most identify with.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know for certain. I don't want to say as a fact because I haven't gone back over everything. But I dare say, Kaylin, to you and to everybody listening, I dare say I might just have to identify most with the Pigeon Man.
Yeah, see, if we had covered Pigeon Man before that, it would have already been in your lexicon,
it would have been Pigeon
ready to go.
Mostly the whole loving animals more than humans.
Yeah.
Really loving animals, hating
same.
humans. Not understanding
Loving
humanity.
Animals, yep.
Not really understanding society.
Deeply misunderstanding the way that humanity misunderstands itself.
And preferring to be alone with nature, with animals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's my ideal scenario.
And you speak Pigeon, too. Yeah, you're halfway there, at least. For sure, that would be your spirit animal, would be the Pigeon Man.
No, just Pigeon. Yeah, it has to be Pigeon Man. It's not pigeons. It's
No,
Pigeon Man.
Pigeon Man, specifically.
Wait, have I upgraded from Nick Miller? Because Nick Miller is my spirit animal.
Yeah.
We all know this.
It has to.
Is it now the
probably
Pigeon
has
Man?
To stay Nick. Hey, y'all.
What a great start to our show.
Hey, we're here. This is 2025. That's pretty dark. My name is Kaylin.
My name is Christian, the Pigeon Man.
And this year is off to a hellish,
fiery storm,
hell of a start in many parts of our country and those beyond. It's been tough these last couple weeks, just seeing so much difficulty, devastation. Our thoughts are with all of our California Darklings. California is consistently like one of our states with the most downloads, and a significant chunk of those are in Southern California. So
it's true.
If you're a Darkling that is listening that has been affected by the wildfires, we are so incredibly sorry. If you know friends or loved ones who have been affected, it's just such like a widespread disaster.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's not over, and that's even harder to come to grips with, at least not at the time we're recording this.
Fires are still burning.
And we recognize that it's not just about material possessions, but it's also about like those feelings of home and community.
And history, too.
History. Feelings that are difficult to articulate, and they are even more difficult to recreate or recapture. It's truly unimaginable, like the loss that so many people are facing right now.
Absolutely.
We just want to say that we're with you and we're thinking about you. And it's tough. And we know that a lot of you are feeling those existential, funny feelings along with us right now for natural disaster, climate change sort of reasons, but also so many others as we are entering this very uncertain new year. And when the collective existential aching gets this loud and this palpable, I think there's only one place for us as ghost hosts to go to guide our dear Darklings.
Yeah, where's that?
A community that's locked safely in our minds and memories. And that is, of course, Hillwood.
Hillwood!
And along with that, we know that a few core truths glimmer and shine against Hillwood's urban melting pot. Whether it's New York City or Seattle,
Portland,
or Chicago,
Cleveland.
These truths are soulful, jazzy notes reverberating under the city's gritty resolution. For one thing, ironically, many of Hillwood's citizens and circumstances remind us that we are not alone in our feelings of isolation or misunderstanding. And building on that, we all have far more in common than we typically care to acknowledge.
Far more.
Arnold, even in his 9-year-old subconscious, knows it well. The only hope that we've got as a species is banding together and seeking to understand and care for each other before it's too late.
Not being afraid of the unknown. Confronting it. Understanding it.
Confronting it together.
Accepting it together.
Accepting one another.
We all different.
We're all different and we're all the same. And Arnold is such a guiding light in showing us as kids and even us now. Like, it holds up so well, this episode and all of them that I've rewatched in my adulthood, because Arnold is that guy. He's just that kid. Like,
he's the guy.
He has it figured out. He has it together, and we would do well to take a lesson from him, which we're going to do today.
Let's do it. Let's meet the Pigeon Man.
Pigeon Man holds the second slot in the 15th episode of the first season of Hey Arnold, and marks Gerald's second ever urban legend impartation.
Wow.
Stoop Kid being the first. We'll definitely get to Stoop Kid one day.
Stoop Kid who is afraid to leave the stoop.
Afraid to leave his stoop.
That one.
And quick reminder, if this is the first time that you've been on a Hey Arnold dive with us, we did a more comprehensive breakdown of the history of the show and its creators way back in January of 2022 when we talked about the headless cabbie.
Man.
So we started there and we've been working our way through, but if you're craving more Hey Arnold backstory, you might want to start.
Yeah.
You might want to start there
Yeah.
if you haven't heard it.
We built little by little each episode.
And it's always a favorite when we come back to Hillwood. This episode, in all of its glory, aired on November 20th, 1996. It was confirmed via Lane Torrin and Craig Bartlett's recent Reddit AMA that Pigeon Man is one of Lane's top 3 favorite episodes, and in fact, he listed it first. So
really?
Maybe even his favorite episode.
Maybe even his favorite one.
It was written by Joseph Purdy, one of the show's main writers, who also brought us favorites like Headless Cabbie, Sally's Comet, Mr. Wind Goes Country, Held as Locket, and more.
Oh, classics.
It seems that Jamie Mitchell served as the storyboard director and Larry Likeleader as director, whose credits are many, including Downtown is Fruits, Arnold's Christmas, The Vacant Lot, and Phoebe Cheats.
All right.
Among dozens of others.
More classics.
And I don't know about you, Christian, or you, Darklings, but just the first notes of the score in this episode let me know right up front that this one is going to make me feel things.
Okay, now follow my hand.
We join Arnold on the roof of his boarding house where he's coaching several pigeons, Lester, Fester, and Chester, to follow his hand. And he's preparing to send Chester off with a note to Gerald. Of course, Arnold understands the birds, who are voiced by none other than Mr. Craig Bartlett, according to IMDb. He asks Chester,
"You remember where Gerald lives? Do you remember who Gerald is? Good. Fly this to Gerald, okay?"
"Do you remember who Gerald is?" Good. He launches Chester off the roof, but Chester gets going in fits and starts that are alarming for any airborne thing, and Arnold wonders if he should have sent Fester instead. An hour later, when the gang meets him on his front stoop, they're all wondering why Gerald isn't present. And Arnold's sure he should be there by now because he sent word via carrier pigeon.
Chester reminds me of Errol from Harry Potter, the Weasley's owl.
Yeah.
That always gets like lost or injured or something.
Poor Errol. Poor Chester.
Poor Chester. Should have sent faster.
This, of course, opens the door wide for Helga to belittle Arnold's hobby, I guess, if we want to call it a hobby.
his expertise, okay?
Okay, yes. His expertise.
I think this is called a pastime. I don't understand where this comes from. How does this 9-year-old kid know anything about carrier pigeons?
Hey.
And when nobody else around him does.
Yeah, I will concede to Helga that a 9-year-old training carrier pigeons would not be on my bingo card in any other place or time, but in Hillwood,
a child
in
prodigy?
the 90s, it just makes sense.
I mean, he's a smart kid, but he's not like a genius. Like, you don't just come up with this on your own.
Helga says,
"A carrier pigeon? That's brilliant, Einstein. You can't count on a pigeon."
Hey, they're really smart birds.
Arnold defends them as really smart birds, and Phoebe backs him up.
Arnold's correct, Helga. Carrier pigeons can navigate in many large urban areas, flying at an average speed of 40 miles per hour.
Big deal. It's the 20th century, in case you haven't noticed, football head, and there's been a little invention called the telephone.
She's not wrong.
This hit me in that like mid-90s way because we've obviously since entered the 21st century.
Right.
And I think that any kid attempting to make this point today would instead likely reference some facet of the internet to get their message across rather than a telephone. Possibly they wouldn't even reference a text message.
I would think text message, but
it might be a text, but it might be a DM or some other method of communication that's beyond even us at this point, Christian. We're the olds now, remember?
Yeah, but there aren't things that exist that we don't know about.
I feel like there probably are, actually. The WhatsApps and whoosy whatsits.
Everybody's been using WhatsApp forever.
See, not me.
It's not a new thing.
You Darklings won't be surprised to learn that I myself have always been fascinated with carrier pigeons, much like Arnold, and much like the mushers and the sled dogs in our Balto research. And I feel like we wouldn't be doing our due diligence in the name of knowledge and pretty darkness if we didn't explore that history with you a little bit today.
Yeah, hell yeah. I would never say that I have a fascination with carrier pigeons by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have an interest, and I very much want to know the history of how this shit ever happened. This is crazy to me.
It's crazy to me too. That's
this
more
is
what
a
it
thing.
is just like incredulousness that this was ever how humans communicated.
I thought it was a myth. Like, I thought it was make-believe.
Yeah, I mean, it feels that way. It's represented in a lot of like fantasy, medieval sorts of media.
But I also used to think that spontaneous human combustion was also make-believe. But it's happened a lot. Charles Dickens referenced it in his works.
Experienced it?
Yes. Well, yes, regularly.
God.
But I mean, like historically though, like there are accounts of spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah.
And likewise, there have been such things as carrier pigeons.
There definitely have been such things as carrier pigeons, Christian.
Isn't it more so that they just do like a one location back and
here
forth?
we go.
Anyway, you tell us. You tell us. I'm going to get ahead of you. You know, so you can also befriend crows and ravens.
We know. Yes, we've heard.
Should I go off on that? Should I talk about that real quick?
I mean, y'all let me talk about locusts, so
yeah.
Why not pigeons?
That was a whole conversation.
You remember that time I talked about locusts for like 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, what a time. Okay.
And I was like, more.
Carrier pigeons as a concept are so interesting to me because it likely took thousands of years of recognition of pigeons' natural behaviors and then the human ingenuity to work alongside those natural behaviors.
Yeah, but you know birds aren't real.
Of course not.
Right.
Our earliest recorded evidence of this practice dates all the way back to 1350 BCE, when Egyptians employed pigeons to convey messages, tying notes to their legs.
That's believable.
Similarly, ancient Greeks used them to announce the Olympic victors. They would send carrier pigeons to tell all the regions about the winners of the Olympics.
That's really cool.
By 1150 CE, messenger pigeons were utilized in Baghdad, and Genghis Khan later adopted them for communication across his empire. And in medieval Europe, the Republic of Genoa established pigeon posts within their Mediterranean watchtower network. Wow. So they began to kind of create networks of pigeon communication.
Just covered in bird shit.
Honestly.
Dripping white goo.
Pigeons as communication experienced mainstream use all the way into modern times. For example, in 1860, Paul Reuter, founder of Reuters, the news journalism network
I'm unfamiliar.
employed over 45 pigeons to transmit news and stock prices between Brussels and Aiken,
Wow.
bridging gaps in telegraph lines. So they couldn't get telegraphs there, so they started sending pigeons.
That's wild.
One of my favorite pigeon initiatives, the Great Barrier Pigeongram Service.
Pigeon Initiative? Sorry, what was it?
The Great Barrier Pigeongram Service, initiated in New Zealand in 1897, is considered one of the earliest regular airmail services, with pigeons carrying messages across significant distances.
Huh.
Pigeons were also used heavily during both World Wars when other communication methods failed. The U.S. Army Signal Corps, for instance, utilized these birds extensively in France during World War I. One notable pigeon, Cher-Ami, delivered crucial messages that saved nearly 200 soldiers of the Lost Battalion by flying through enemy fire to reach
Holy
headquarters.
shit. Did they like know it was a messenger? They're trying to like shoot it down?
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
There were even in different areas, as pigeons were used during wartime, there were different areas where they were training falcons to intercept pigeons.
Oh, wow.
Like,
that's pretty cool.
Sicking falcons on them.
That's
Eye in
so
the skies.
crazy. Can you imagine?
No,
Can
I
you
really
imagine living in a
cannot.
world where that happens? Like
Living in a world
modern
where
day.
that happens. Well, we do live in a world where that happened, but also the fact that like
Modern day, though.
you would send your pigeons to do their thing, and you wouldn't know for a long time whether or not
If
it
it
worked
was
or it
successful.
happened or if it
Yeah.
was successful
Can you imagine like getting your bills in the mail from a
from
Pigeon?
a pigeon.
it lands in your windowsill out front and it's
And
like
it taps on your window.
it waits for
Hello?
you to take the bills and but it's late because the bird took like an extra week to get there, so you missed your due date on the bill.
And you're like, it was the pigeon. It's like the older version of the dog ate my homework.
And yeah, they won't
the
believe
pigeon
you.
stalled my bill.
The pigeon got lost.
Yeah.
Being served papers.
Served
via
papers
pigeon.
via pigeon of any
Amazing.
kind. Be a little bit humiliating. Or either it would make the experience of being served papers
A little bit
bit cooler.
Yeah.
In the 19th century, to get news from Europe more quickly, some New York City newspapers used carrier pigeons. The distance from Europe to Halifax, Nova Scotia is relatively short, so reporters would station themselves in Halifax, and they would write the information received from incoming ships and put the messages in capsules attached to the legs of homing pigeons. And then the birds would fly from Halifax to New York City, where the information would be published.
That's just nuts.
So they used it as like a news network for a while there. But to explain a little bit better how carrier pigeons work in real life, because it's not exactly how they work in this Hey Arnold episode. Carrier pigeons are a domesticated variety of the wild rock dove and are more accurately referred to as homing pigeons because they operate by being released to return to their original nest, the nest where they were born.
That makes sense.
Meaning, if you intend to send messages somewhere via pigeon, you need to possess a pigeon that originated in that place, and it's a one-way trip.
Yeah, so that means like pigeon breeding, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You would breed them, you'd have them, they would nest where you live, and then
you would cart or ship pigeons to the place that you need information from on a regular basis, and they would send you their pigeons.
So, but can you only send them one way?
Yes.
You then have to physically transport
them back to their location. Correct.
Oh, that's really cool.
There is one exception to that in that New Zealand Pigeongram service, where they were able to place their food in one location and they had their home in another, and they were able to train the birds to fly back and forth. And they did that up to twice a day reliably for a long time, covering round trip flights of up to 100 miles. So in that contained system, they were able to do it. But typically, yes, it's not what most envision, but it is generally a one-way trip, and then the pigeon has to be physically taken to the location that you intend to receive it from later.
So in this context, for Arnold's plan to work with Gerald,
it would have to be Gerald's pigeon that Arnold has on standby.
Or he feeds the birds at Gerald's house.
Or he feeds the birds at Gerald's house, and they go to get food there. Although we see him feeding them at his house. So supernatural walkie-talkies. Not like supernatural, but like ultra-natural walkie-talkies. Ultra-natural. I'm trying to think of
primeval.
You could say primeval, I suppose.
Walkie-talkies.
But the kicker with all of this, even though they're one-way trips, it's still really impressive because they can travel over such vast distances.
Yeah.
Like over 1,000 miles. But the kicker is that we still don't understand or know exactly how they managed to do it. we don't know what exactly it is that allows them to find their home again.
Birds can see colors that we can't see, apparently. They can make sounds we can't hear. I bet there's some thing that they pick up. Like, how do birds fly in their flocks? Like, how do they make those shapes? I just saw a video on Instagram today about those formations that were happening in Italy recently. And they were making these super psychedelic shapes in the sky. They weren't just flying in a V, but like it was like synchronized flying.
This takes us back to the locusts. We talked about some of that and like the way that they know where they are in space and can sense. It's extra sensory to be able to sense their comrades in flight.
It's called murmuration.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I remember talking about that with the locusts.
They're actually starlings, not pigeons, but it's really, really crazy.
But as far as how they manage to find their home again, I sent you a quote from an article, a Time article actually, quoting Charlie Walcott, who is a professor of neurobiology and behavior at Cornell.
If you believe the Italians, it's all due to smells. And if you believe some of the Germans, it has to do with the Earth's magnetic field. And my personal view is it's a combination of the two. If I were to blindfold you, I bet you could find your way home by hailing a cab or talking to someone. And I think that's what's happening with pigeons, is that they have these alternative strategies.
There are literally dozens of explanations. There have been dozens of research experiments that try to make sense of how it works.
Yeah.
Wikipedia says that most researchers believe that the homing ability is based on a map and compass model, with the compass feature allowing birds to orient and the map feature allowing birds to determine their location relative to a goal site or like the home loft.
Right.
While the compass mechanism appears to rely on the sun, the map mechanism has been highly debated. Some researchers believe that the map mechanism relied on the ability of birds to detect the Earth's magnetic field, like you said. A light-mediated mechanism that involves the eyes and is lateralized has been examined, but developments have implicated the trigeminal... I knew that was going to trip me up because it's a condition that a friend has and I always say it wrong. Trigeminal.
Trigeminal them.
But developments have implicated the trigeminal nerve in magnetoreception. Magnetoreception is what they're calling it when they are somehow internalizing or inferring the Earth's magnetic field.
Yeah. Is it also like a reception and celebration of Magneto? Or like a bunch of Magnetos
Definitely
from like
that.
different X-Men universes that come together? It's like a Magneto reception.
It's when all the pigeons celebrate Magneto from X-Men.
It's just pigeons. And they give him like little pigeon awards and stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's like the Dundies, but a Magneto reception.
Oh, but Magneto gets every award. It's like the dogs from Coraline. Oh, the dogs in the crowd with those two sisters. I forget their names.
I don't remember their names. I can't help you. It's like Buzz right now, and he's got a homing signal to step directly on every organ and body part that's
right
painful.
In front of the camera. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Miss Spink and Miss Forcible.
Okay.
They're not sisters. They're I'm pretty sure they're lesbian lovers.
Good, as they should be.
I'm glad I'm here I can just derail this whole thing, keep you off track, make it as difficult for you as possible. I'm having fun.
Thanks. Good. I'm glad. I'm having fun too. I just hope our darklings are at the same time.
They better be.
There is also a lot of Italian research that suggests that pigeons orient themselves using the spatial distribution of atmospheric odors known as olfactory navigation.
Olfactory.
And then there's still other research that indicates that homing pigeons also navigate through visual landmarks by following familiar roads and other human-made features, making 90-degree turns and following habitual routes, much the same way that humans navigate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the consensus is sort of that they're doing it in a lot of different ways.
Right.
And different birds may literally navigate in different ways, depending on what works best for them, just like people.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
We just don't have those super sensory abilities, which I wish we did.
Why hasn't anybody just like sat a pigeon down and asked them?
We
should, forget the interview with DJ.
We could be the first to do that,
I think we need to sit down with a pigeon.
Let's sit down with a homing pigeon and explore what's going on in their head.
I think this is a great idea.
That's what I'd like to do. You can speak pigeon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you earlier. Perfect. We're set. Mr. Walcott at Cornell University was able to demonstrate that while pigeons from one loft were confused by a magnetic anomaly in the Earth, it had no effect on birds from another loft and a mile away. And other experiments have shown that altering the perceived time of day with artificial lighting or using air conditioning to eliminate odors in the pigeon's home roost affected the pigeon's ability to return home.
Oh.
So all of the above have thrown pigeons off their game, meaning that all of the above are somehow being used. And I feel like it really is an extra sensory sort of thing that's happening, because really the magic is in them like calibrating and orchestrating and understanding all of that data in their little pigeon mind at the same time.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, there's an intuition too as well. Like animals have instincts that humans don't have. They know, like birds know when to leave an area before disaster strikes. They know.
They can sense the weather, barometric pressure.
The only animals that can't do that are deer, because apparently deer are stupid and they walk right out into the road and they watch your headlights coming at them at 80 miles an hour.
Well, they can sense natural disasters. They just can't sense human disaster.
So yeah, animals have, because humans, because we're so intelligent, right? Because we have so much consciousness and awareness about ourselves, some more than others, am I right? People have different theories about this, but there's a reason why a lot of our instincts and our intuitions are muted. They're shut down. Like very rarely do they arise and like, you know, lead to something good, like save us from a bad situation. You get a gut feeling, something's bad.
Yeah.
It does happen. But there is something about us that has all but silenced those natural instincts.
Yeah.
That most animals still have.
We get away from them in modern society. We start to rely on other things. And half the time we don't even realize what we've lost,
Right.
you know, or how we aren't connected to that anymore.
I think it's the ego that
You're telling me.
we're kind of relying on the ego
Yeah.
when we shouldn't be.
Get back to basics. Think like a pigeon.
Yeah, so that's why it's important to meditate. And if you want to figure out how to you speak to your inner
To
self,
roost and meditate and coo.
you just go to betterhelp.com/TPD podcast and you can talk to a licensed therapist and get back to basics on humanity.
Man.
Rediscover your humanity.
Or your pigeonhood.
See colors you've never seen before. Do acid.
If you're a Game of Thrones aficionado, you may be surprised to learn that ravens were never actually messenger birds.
Yeah.
In my mind, it made sense that they would have been. I never really questioned it or thought about why they wouldn't be, but as I looked into all of this, it was made very clear that pigeons were ideal for the job because of that homing instinct, the certain breed of pigeon, I should say. And also because the ravens and other corvids would be smart enough to remove the message from their appendage and likely destroy said message.
They're way too intelligent. Ravens are like...
too smart for our own good.
Yeah. They're either like your companion or your enemy. It can be both, but it can't be anything but those two things.
Yeah. They have a lot going on.
It's a Venn diagram.
And if pigeons have that much going on, imagine what must be happening in the mind of a raven.
You know what town could have used a flock of homing pigeons to transport some goods?
What
a town in Balto that needed
Nome, Alaska.
They needed their medicine. They needed it.
They could have traveled with vials of antitoxin. If only they had had a ton of pigeons that originated in Nome, Alaska.
They should have thought of that.
I also don't know if the antitoxin would have made that trip very well.
With a bunch of pigeons?
It was packed up pretty well in Balto.
Flock of pigeons. A whole bunch of them. If they can fly away, Pigeon Man, they can fly a little crate full of antitoxin.
Okay. Tandem effort. Coordination.
Yes, all together.
I see.
All together.
Hey, Arnold. Man, I think that something is seriously wrong with Chester.
Gerald appears just as Chester is arriving home from his journey, and just in time for Arnold to catch the falling bird in his baseball glove. Which made me so sad. Like, I cannot do sick animals. I just can't.
I was mostly concerned about his skinned up knees and elbows.
Yeah, because he really dove for it.
He did.
On the pavement.
On the asphalt, yeah. I think that was his own asphalt.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was good.
Arnold, I think this is serious. Your pigeon looks terrible.
Chester is clearly in rough shape, and Arnold resolves to take him to the vet until Sid suggests an alternative.
Well, why didn't you just take him to the Pigeon Man? Pigeon Man?
Take him to the crazy guy on the roof.
The kids fire off opinions in a frenzy.
Sid, are you crazy?
That pigeon guy's nuts.
I've never heard of the Pigeon Man. Who's he?
And we have our cue.
They're all so scared of this person. It just blows my mind that he was like, just take him to the Pigeon Man.
Gerald clears his throat, doing his whole beatnik thing, and he says,
Okay, Sid. Lead me in, babe.
Lead me in, babe. Which I love. So Sid climbs the stoop, explaining that the legend of the Pigeon Man has been handed down from kid generation to kid generation.
For as long as I can remember, which was about since I was 3. Take it away, Gerald.
In the pet shop district, there stands an old tenement.
To which I say, this show was always expanding my vocabulary.
Yeah, right.
I always knew what words were and what they meant because of shows like Hey Arnold.
It's a smart show.
Old tenement, abandoned since the Great Fire of '69.
At first, I thought this was just an excuse to use the number 69, and it might very well have been. But there was, in fact, a major fire in Cleveland in 1969. The Cuyahoga River caught fire in 1969, and it was always full of like debris and oil, and it was very near train tracks, and it caused a lot of railroad damage. And this is what actually led to the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, in 1970, and the passage of the Clean Water Act in 1972. So there was a Great Cleveland Fire of 1969, but it was a river, not necessarily a cityscape, and I do think that they were probably going for the joke here.
Maybe so.
After the fire, pigeons started gathering by the thousands upon its charred roof. No one knew why, until one day someone saw a dark figure moving among the avian multitudes. For lo, alone on the roof of that 88th Street building lived a creature, half man and half bird, known only as Pigeon Man.
Pigeon Man.
Pigeon Man.
As Gerald tells his tale, we watch a series of haunting images and silhouettes, otherworldly colors and shadows spanning the rooftop.
Some say he was hatched from an egg and left by aliens. And he had a beak and a tail. Some say he survives by eating leaves, twigs, and worms. Some say he's a guy in a chicken soup, a lonely, deranged man wanting only birds for company.
This reveals one of the most eerie images of the episode, in my opinion, which is a man slumped against the wall, bathed in the golden glow of light from a window, pigeons roosting around him, with one single, unflinching eye visible through the suit.
You know who it is? It's Luke.
Of course.
You ever seen Luke in his penguin costume?
I haven't, but that makes sense.
It's his profile picture. Here, I'll show it to you.
Okay, yeah, maybe I have. Ah, it's Luke.
In this penguin costume. Pigeon Man.
If his penguin were a chicken and he were roosting amongst the pigeons, then yes. No, but it's that animated, it's that one frame.
The one eye.
With the one eye, one human eye.
Because he does look crazy.
Visible.
He
like
looks
Debbie
deranged.
Thornberry, but in a chicken suit.
That's what I was thinking of, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, who's the one-eyed person with the hidden face?
Debbie
Thornberry.
Who knows? I don't. But to this day, flocks of pigeons gather on the roof. And that can only mean that someone is caring for them. Someone known as Pigeon Man. The end.
Pigeon Man.
Pigeon Man.
It's that like,
That's
some
my
say
point.
this, some say this,
Mm.
and still others say this. But what I know for sure is there can only be one thing. That formula, that way of speaking was so familiar to me as a kid because Gerald did it so many times. And also, I feel like I was seeing it in other media and it just made so much sense to me. Just that, like, I'm telling you an urban legend now. Like, it was
Right.
so specific.
It's so good.
I love it. I can't get enough.
It's so good.
But baby Kaylin, as she watched, had to wonder, does Chester have time for this?
Chester, I know.
Does Chester have time for them to be enjoying this
He's
thrilling
like,
tale?
on my deathbed here, guys.
Hello.
Hanging by a feather.
So what's your point? The point is he's one crazy psychopathic freak.
But he's the crazy psychopathic freak who can fix my pigeon.
I feel as though those aren't descriptors that would be used in children's cartoons today.
No, definitely not.
Crazy psychopathic freak.
But I do want to say, always better to take your animal to the vet
Than to
than
random
to take it
man
to
on the rooftop.
random stranger that no
Agreed.
one's met before, and you don't even know
Agreed.
if he exists.
Let's go with the vet, if
All-
and when at all possible.
It's probably just go to the vet.
You know, that's very modern of us, but hey.
Just a couple of modern psychopathic freaks.
Yeah, we're the psychopathic freaks.
okay to
Just
call
leave that part
yourself
to us, and we'll leave the pigeon fixing to the vet.
Yeah, Pigeon Man is a freak of nature. Actually, Football Head, you two would probably get along.
And she doesn't know how right she is. It turns out we're all freaks of nature, Helga. Every one of us.
Every single one of us, including Helga, because she has a shrine to a boy she likes, made of bubblegum.
Arnold is undeterred, and he's determined to help Chester however he can. And as he marches off into the melancholy jazz abyss, Gerald marvels.
He's a bold kid. A bold kid.
Isn't that like a Charlie Brown thing?
I think so. I
You're
think there were a few
bold
things
kid,
that it
Charlie
reminded
Brown,
me of.
or something
Yeah.
like that. I know that Gerald calls Arnold bold and
kid.
brave and stuff, throughout the series, but it just felt like a Charlie Brown.
I think
thing
it's it's reminiscent of Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it isn't the first time that I've hit this soapbox, but Arnold was the stuff of legend.
Yeah.
He was always going down in neighborhood history, like every week.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's part of what I love about this show. The whole show, like the whole thing, even the less spooky or dark episodes, truly feel like storied history.
Mhm.
It's legendary, but also accessible in the way that I could picture myself talking about the one time the neighborhood kid hijacked Nocturnal Ned's radio show or rode the bus to the end of the line or any number of these subplots.
Right.
This blending of lore and realism is masterful. We talk about it a lot, but it's probably my favorite thing about Craig Bartlett as a creator. And it seems like very deeply embedded in his voice as a creator.
Mhm.
I think it appeals to the part of each of us that we left out in the woods or on our bikes the last time we saw the streetlights come on and retreated home, never to rejoin the band of neighborhood kids.
There's always the last time.
And I'd like to think that we all kind of felt like we were making history when we were out there at play, even if only our own history.
That gets me right in the feels. That hurts. I don't like that feeling at all.
Oh, it's a good
I want
feeling
that to go
and
away.
a terrible feeling because it's
Oh, man.
deeply, deeply existential.
It really is. It really is. What I like so much about it is, in real life, we hear urban legends. We hear these stories, ghost stories, whatever. And then that's the end of it. We go to sleep. I'm talking about as a kid, growing up. You go eat dinner, you go home or whatever. But like in Hey Arnold, if they're going to present that to you, Arnold is undoubtedly going to go explore the thing that we never got to do in real life. So we get to live out these fantasies vicariously through him each episode. And what's really wonderful about how Craig Bartlett does this, and I know we've said this probably 100 times before, but he takes that concept, that nostalgic aspect of childhood, gives you something more that you never got to have in reality, uses it to convey some
truth,
really deep existential truth, some not even a moral, not even
always a moral. It's not even about a moral.
Just it reveals some truth about humanity, about the human condition, about what it's like to be alive in a world that is unfair and makes no sense. But then, even just as you begin to think, this is just absolutely normal. There's nothing about this that's interesting or crazy or scary, supernatural. There's always that tail end. There's always that twist ending.
There's always a spinning top that makes you go, but is there though?
Tells you, actually, there
be.
is something here.
Yeah.
It just wasn't what we thought it was, or wasn't what we discovered. We learned something, but we didn't learn everything. There's still mystery out there.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about it so
Me
much.
too.
There's always mystery.
There's
So that's
always
what I'm
mystery. There's always
lacking.
more. There's something to find.
That's what I'm lacking in my reality is mystery and
Me too.
wonder. I need it to still exist
God, yes.
so much.
There is, okay, I'm going to read this quote. I posted it on my Instagram. You're making me need to share it. It was posted by the Black Liturgies account. It's Cole Arthur Riley. She's a writer. And it was this whole post about locating the beautiful on wonder and staying human. And I shared this because I thought it was so perfect, and I think it encapsulates this now as well. It can feel foolish to pause to marvel at the stars when the world is burning, or to find the world beautiful when you've known it to betray you. But wonder is a liberation practice, a reminder that we contain more than tragedy. Beauty is our origin and our anchor.
Hey, that's nice.
I feel like the older that we get, the easier it is to kind of lose that mystery or to think that it's gone. And any of those moments in life that kind of wake us up and remind us that it isn't, the people we meet, places we go, something that we read or watch, anything that makes us feel that more, that connection to more is so valuable and important. I love how it said wonder is a liberation practice.
Yeah.
Because wonder is what sets us free from the mundanity and like the reality, like the really deep-seated, difficult to navigate and wrap our minds around reality.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I was listening to the last podcast interview with Sasha Sagan. It was a different context entirely, but she referred to us on planet Earth as this life raft amidst a vast ocean or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so there is still like so much wonder out there, and all the constructs of adulthood that make us like, that kills our imaginations, that kills our sense of awe and amazement from just sheer responsibility and taxes and bullshit and, you know, having to find jobs and make a living, all the stuff that makes up what humans have concocted as a way to live your life. None of it really matters.
Right.
So like, again, back to everything that we've organized or built for ourselves as humans is what destroys that spirit inside of us, that those natural instincts or those natural senses.
What you're describing, my friend, is capitalism.
Well, that's part of it. That's part of it. You know, it happened before. I guess I'm looking more at like even society. We talked about society as a whole back when we did our Pinball Wizard episode, and how technically we live in a simulation currently because we are constantly,
we've built this system that we are struggling to survive in.
We built it, and then we struggle to uphold the idea, the concept of what we built forever ago, because it's now become the standard. Now we're trying to meet said standard over and over again, just to feel like we're good enough, like we're human. And long tangent, probably shouldn't even get this far off topic, but you know.
No, this is the topic. This is what Pigeon Man stands for.
This is what Pigeon Man is so upset about. We're not even there yet about him as a character.
Yeah.
But this is all the stuff that's made him so jaded and disenchanted with humanity, and how humans have decided to rule this world that we live in, this planet, you know, how we've misused it in so many ways, you know, leading to things like climate change.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Couldn't have said it better. And it amazes me that people can run right into that point just repeatedly over and over and over and not see that.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Which we will talk about very soon as we continue our journey with Arnold. Because as he makes his way to the pet shop district, which also made me laugh, like in Kid World, of course, there's a whole district for pet shops.
Yeah.
Of course there is. There would have been in my Kid World if I had like drawn a map. Absolutely. There's a pet shop district.
I want to go there.
And he finds Pigeon Man's tenement. The interior is decrepit, abandoned, and cloaked in shadow. He climbs the rickety, twisty staircase, which could have borrowed a caution sign from The Tale of the Dream Machine.
Hey, that's right.
I'm just saying.
That's right. Death stares, anybody?
And as he does this, dozens of pigeons watch from the sidelines, eventually descending on him when a few get startled. But he makes his way onto the roof, out into the evening light, and crosses the rooftop, which is littered with birds and apparati for their rearing and their care. Carrying the limp Chester, Arnold calls out and approaches a disheveled figure from behind. This is Pigeon Man. I feel like every time I say his name, I have to do the ellipses beforehand.
Pigeon Man.
He doesn't startle. He really doesn't even react. And he barely speaks a word to Arnold as he takes and examines Chester, cooing to the bird.
He won't eat, can hardly fly. So, what do you think?
Come back tomorrow.
You're going to keep Chester? And cure him?
So I'll see you tomorrow? Like around the same time? Like he's not getting feedback. He's not getting anything from Pigeon Man.
Very cryptic.
Pigeon Man takes Chester, and that's kind of the end of the interaction. And it's at this point that a bunch of practical fears enter my mind, like what if Chester infects the rest of this flock, and like what kind of bird flu are we looking at? And
hey, because that's also happening now.
It is happening now, and Arnold has just carried this very sick bird to a whole different part of the city. And
oh no.
I don't know, but the music gets a hopeful lift as Arnold makes himself scarce. This is as good a time as any to share that the Pigeon Man is voiced by actor Vincent Schiavelli, yes, lending his very name to the character, who left us in 2005.
Oh, man.
Acting since the 70s and also a celebrated food journalist through his Sicilian heritage, he was in everything from The Frisco Kid to Fast Times at Ridgemont High to Punky Brewster and Who's the Boss.
Wow.
He was in Tomorrow Never Dies as Dr. Kaufman. He was the subway ghost in Ghost.
No
Swayze.
way. Swayzin'.
And he featured in other pretty dark titles like Tales from the Crypt, Parker Lewis Can't Lose, Casper Meets Wendy, and Erie, Indiana.
Wow. Okay.
He actually suffered from Marfan syndrome, which is a condition that affects your bones and ligaments and muscles, and it can give like a very distinct appearance to your face, like kind of a longer face and very deep set eyes.
Oh.
Jonathan Larson, the creator of Rent, also had Marfan, so that's the only reason I knew what it was when I saw it in his information. But he was doing okay with his Marfan syndrome, and he ended up passing away from lung cancer.
It's not the Marfan syndrome that kills you. It's
the lung cancer.
Lung cancer.
Depressing.
Jesus.
But we thank him, Vincent, for his presence in the Arnold verse.
Did they stylize the animation after his appearance?
I think so.
'Cause that's kind of how I feel like the Pigeon Man looks.
I think they did.
A long face, deep set eyes.
Mm-hmm.
How many? Like 500 birds?
Did he smell?
Does he buy?
Returning to the stoop, and don't quote me on the timing, because it sure seemed like sunset to me back there on the roof with Pigeon Man, and then Arnold's back on the stoop and it's daytime still, and the kids are quizzing him on his experience and asking how many birds there were and whether he smells or whether he bites, and Arnold says,
Thousands! He did smell, but not bad. And no stinky, he doesn't bite. He was okay.
He's just so straight to the point. He's unwavered. He's unflapped.
He's unflapped.
By their nonsense.
Unflapped.
By their kid, their adolescent, their
so
childlike questions.
So below him.
I could tell. This guy knows pigeons. I believe in him. When I go back there tomorrow, Chester will be okay. I just know it.
So simultaneously with his like no nonsense, yeah, I trust this guy, he's also so optimistic and hopeful. Fast forward to the next day when Arnold goes to retrieve his bird.
He looks great. How'd you do it?
Time, patience, and the right berries.
Thanks for curing him.
Exactly 24 hours of time and patience, I guess.
I have questions.
I have many questions.
Why does he have the bandages on his chest?
I wondered that too. Was there some sort of procedure?
That's what I want to know.
I think it was maybe just the classic cartoon, this animal being thing was banged up and is now restored to you. You know?
Like a visual cue to tell kids.
Yes.
Band-Aid.
He was sick, now he's better. He's bandaged. Like a doctor, Pigeon Man prescribes a regimen of berries and says he wants to see him back in a week to make sure he's recovered.
I could use some of those berries.
Me too. What berries are they? Tell me.
What are they?
Tell me.
Jester's a good bird.
How did you learn to talk to him?
I've spent a lot of time with him. I trust them. They trust me.
And it's now that Pigeon Man begins opening up to Arnold. He's able to trust someone else who's in tune with the animals. Someone that the animals trust. Because he knows that the animals know things, just like we do. Arnold, ever kind, empathetic, and curious, leans in.
Don't you ever get lonely up here?
Lonely for what? For people? No.
Through their conversation, we learn that Arnold and his friends remind him of himself as a kid. He even went to PS 118, and he had the same fourth grade teacher Arnold has now. Miss Slovak. He tells Arnold that he did a project on birds when he was in her class, and that's when he became fascinated with them. But his friends, and I'm using that term loosely,
quote unquote,
thought he was weird, so they stopped talking to him. Which means that this poor man has essentially been socially isolated since the fourth grade.
He was bullied so hard in the fourth grade he never recovered.
All for a simple hyper-fixation.
Yeah, an interest,
It was
a hobby.
just something that he was interested in, and everyone thought that that was so strange that he deserved to be
shamed him for it.
Shamed, yeah.
Yeah.
I am seeing so many shades of neurodivergence here.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to think that not only has he missed out on so much in his life just by being himself and like having the guts and the courage to like talk about the things that he likes and like pursue the interest that he likes.
Right.
And he's been so ridiculed for it, but what it caused him to do was like lean further into his interest and find the comfort that he can in that interest. I feel like there are a lot of neurodivergent people who do similar things.
The cliche is that people are like frightened away from their interests because they're afraid of seeming
and
nerdy.
He didn't do that.
Yeah, he didn't do that. He leaned in, like
There's
you said.
something beautiful about that, but it frustrates me the price that he had to pay.
Yeah, to do it. Yeah. I mean, I jokingly, identified with Pigeon Man at the beginning of this episode. But I distinctly remember times in my early 20s when, most people were out living it up, living their lives. And I was staying home to like write, to continue working on like a novel or something, like trying to hone my craft. And I was ridiculed for it.
Yeah.
You know, people who wanted to hang out, all they want to do is just hang out, and you shouldn't, you know, you spend too much time alone. Like come out, hang out, drink with us, and then you can go home and write afterward. But then I also had times where people were like, wow, I wish I had your diligence or something like that. So I got both sides of the coin, but there were definitely times where just a hobby, like just me trying to like make something of myself, like be a writer, people would give me shit for it because I wouldn't make them feel better about themselves.
And that's how you get good at stuff.
It's also how
like
you get good at
pursuing that
things.
curiosity, learning. You all know that I tend to like things very loudly. Whatever I like, I like unapologetically. I've done that, and I've been that way since Broadway, show tunes. I'll sing them. I don't care. The Disney Channel, whatever it happens to be. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. Thank you very much. Like, I am not ashamed of the things that I like, and I never have been. I think I was very lucky to be in an environment when I was younger where people were more like surprised that I had things. You know what I mean? Like, it was more like, oh, you really know a lot about that thing, or like, oh, you really like that. It wasn't really shamed until I got older, and I was in too deep to care.
Yeah, well,
you know,
that's interesting.
There are definitely moments when I feel like maybe it's too much. Maybe I'm, you know, I do it on the podcast where I'm like, I'll get into a conversation about something that the average Darkling maybe doesn't care about, but I'll go on a tangent. But I am really lucky and thankful that whenever I see that in other people, I want to nurture it. Like I want people to like the things they like, pursue the things that they like, share them with me. You know what I mean? Like,
that's how I feel
if
too.
you're an expert on something or you enjoy something, I want you to be in that. That's what makes you more of you, and I like you.
That's the thing I want to know about people.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I like
Forget
people
small
who
talk.
have their things.
Screw small talk. Let's get past it. Tell me what makes you feel alive. Like,
tell me what makes you feel alive. And for
Yeah.
Pigeon Man, it was birds.
It's pigeons.
And that's okay. Like,
yeah.
God, imagine if he had just one or two friends that had supported him in that effort, you know?
They could all be hanging out with pigeons.
Yeah.
All of them to get together.
So fucking cool. Doesn't get cooler than that.
I know. I'm reminded of I've told the story on the show before, but you know, we both go to graveyards.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our listeners go hang out in graveyards. It's a great, you know, culture to go hang out in a graveyard. There's a lot to glean from that experience. And I've been shamed before by being fascinated with graveyards.
Yeah, that's weird.
But I mean, you know, everybody has different interests and hobbies, and that's what makes the world go fucking round.
Yep.
You know, forever and ever.
So, dear Darklings, please let this be our PSA. We say similar things often, but as we are explicitly discussing it in this episode, we love that you have things. We love that you have hobbies. We love that you are reading and learning, and
drawing,
share them with us. Like,
building.
if you ever wonder if somebody cares or, you know, is interested, we are right here.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. And I want to support you in that. And I would have supported Vincent in that had I been in his 4th grade class.
Listen, if you want to kiss pigeons, you go kiss those pigeons. Do it.
Here, let's qualify that if your hobby does no harm to others.
Yeah, within
as
reason.
long as your hobby does no harm.
Not against the law.
It's not against the law, or,
well,
you know,
that's a gray area too, because
it could be. I just say do no harm. You know what I mean?
Do
as
no
long
harm.
as you're not hurting anybody.
That's where we land.
That's you should feel empowered to.
That's it.
Pursue your research and your interests.
Correct.
Because it makes this world a more interesting, more beautiful, more colorful place to live.
Please tell us about your interests. Tell us about your obsessions, your hobbies, the things that make you feel alive.
I personally am inspired when people are in their lane like that, like in their creativity, in their space where they know a lot, or they, you know, they have that expertise and that knowledge. That inspires me so much.
I always think I should get good at something like that.
Same. Pigeon Man says,
It's hard for me to trust people, Arnold.
There are good people too, Pigeon Man.
Maybe, Arnold. And you can call me Vincent.
just this simple moment of naming and humanizing and centering the person does a world of good, not only for Vincent and Arnold, but for every kid watching.
Right.
Because everyone deserves the dignity, or at least the choice of, a name.
Mm-hmm.
and to be called by it.
Don't call me the moniker.
Yeah. Don't call me the thing that the people created.
Yeah.
Call me who I am. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. And going along with that, like Lane's delivery, because this is still Lane Torrent as Arnold, the original Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot in that Reddit AMA about like his choices to kind of play it melancholy, kind of dial it back and soulfully like deliver a lot of these lines. I feel like Craig Bartlett just told the kids to be soulful, and somehow those kids at that time understood what he meant.
Yeah.
Like they understood the assignment. This episode showcases and highlights that. Everybody, Lane, Jamil, like all of them are so like in tune with what Craig wanted, I think. I don't know. There's some magic in the direction and in their delivery. They nailed it. I was so impressed.
Absolutely.
This whole episode. And all of them, if I'm being honest.
That's my boy.
That's my boy.
Take it away, Drew.
Lead me in, babe. What kid, like what was he? He was probably 11, 12 when he was, what kid has the thing to say that and make it work so well?
Don't you ever miss the outside world? Like movies and TV and pizza?
Pizza. Oh, pizza.
Pizza.
That's how I sound when people ask me whether I miss pizza.
Chocolates. I remember those. I mean, this just makes me wonder. We've said, well, he's been an outcast since 4th grade. Mm-hmm. Did he just find his way to the roof of this building?
Yeah. What did we miss in this story, and what
grade?
did he miss in his life?
Would it be like one of Arnold's gang? Just going up to a roof, living with the birds for the next 25 years?
That's how it feels. I mean, it feels like he just missed
What did he
out.
eat?
What did he eat?
Twigs,
Bird
leaves,
seed?
and worms?
Twigs, leaves, and worms.
Where does he get the money for the bird seed?
Yeah. How is he making his
Does
money?
he rob places? Does he rob stores?
The pigeons are pickpockets.
Well, ravens are. Well, they might be.
I know that.
They
That's
steal
what I'm
things.
saying.
I know. I mean, hey, maybe this is a whole deep, like, lore version of Pigeon Man. Like, do the birds bring him food?
Maybe.
He feeds them, they feed him.
They feed him. Like cats hunt for their owners,
Yeah.
It could be.
They bring him gifts.
I do find myself wondering, like,
Food.
how did Pigeon Man come to be Pigeon Man? Was he first Pigeon Boy,
Was there ever a transition? Yeah, because Bruce Wayne was a grown man before he became Batman.
Mm-hmm.
He was never Bat Boy.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story there?
Good analogy.
These are the questions we have
Good
to ask
analogy.
Craig when he comes on the show.
Can't wait. God, from your mouth to Craig's ears.
I hope I'm that close. Craig, if you're listening, if you can feel my breath
We love you.
and my voice,
We want
we
you.
love you. We love you.
Cut to Antonio's, where Arnold happily introduces Vincent to several pies, including pineapple.
Mushroom and
I personally
pineapple.
don't know why this pizza preference is so hotly debated in pop culture.
It's everywhere.
Pineapple on pizza has been around since the 60s. It was a Greek-Canadian guy, did it at his restaurant. Okay, pineapple's on pizza now. It's not like it was especially new at the time, not even to the isolated Pigeon Man. It was around when he was in the 3rd grade.
Sure.
So
sure.
to me, it's like any other potential topping. You either like it or you don't, and the world keeps spinning, right? Like,
Right.
there was a rumor at one point that it was illegal in Italy
That's fake.
to have pineapple on pizza. That's been debunked. It wasn't true. And while, okay, the question might have a little bit more of a place here in this scene, knowing that Vincent Schiavelli was a food journalist and his grandfather was like a renowned Italian chef, like,
Hey,
okay.
all right.
But for whatever reason, this discourse is in everything.
Everything.
All kinds of movies, all kinds of sitcoms. It's always pineapple on pizza.
Well, that's the
Why?
thing. I was gonna say, like, even dating apps with their question prompts
Oh,
are always
God.
like, "Let's debate pineapple on pizza."
I get that it's like an unconventional topping, but like in my opinion, so are anchovies.
That's what
me-
I come back to. Everything from our childhood it was like, I want a pizza, no anchovies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why was that? Why was that a thing? Why was that always
why was
part
that
of
thing
the
in the first place?
conversation?
Everybody said no anchovies.
Who even wants anchovies on their pizza?
Unlike
Was that
pineapple,
whoever's
where
ordered
there are
that?
some people who do enjoy pineapple on pizza. One of my good friends loves a pineapple pizza.
I like a pineapple pizza,
a
but
Hawaiian pizza.
it's great, it's fine. But if you were to call a pizza place and ask for anchovies, they probably wouldn't have them.
They may not. in this day and age. I don't know.
When was it ever common for a pizza joint to have anchovies?
And why
Somebody
do people
please
care
help.
so much that they have pineapple?
Oh, and
I don't get it.
pineapple anchovy pizza.
I'm just saying. Before
Disgusting.
this research, I didn't know the history, so that's why I was like, maybe it is a really recent thing, and there was like a whole Italian uproar, and there was some pushback in some Italian restaurants, presumably. But like, it was just this one Greek Canadian guy in 1962, and now it's a pizza topping. Cool. Like, that's how innovation works, you know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I could see the Italians getting pretty pissed off about it, but
But that's what I'm saying. In Italy, you can request it. Not all restaurants will acquiesce. That's just
sure.
how it is. But why do we all have to talk about it so goddamn much like we have been?
It's boring. It's so boring. I'm so tired of talking about pineapple on pizza. God damn it.
Oh my God.
Let's
The
bring
point
back
is,
the anchovy. Bring back the smelly. I'm ready for it.
Smelly
it needs to
smell.
come back.
It smells smelly. The point is, they are enjoying their afternoon together. Arnold and Vincent and their pizza pies.
That's amore.
These are two people who started the episode thinking that they couldn't be more different and finding that they had a whole lot in common, even more so than the birds. It once again proves our childhood soundtrack true. If you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll find things you never knew you never knew.
Oh.
I saw a meme with that song recently, and I see things like this frequently on the feed that I've curated for myself with a caption that was like, they raised us on this and they're surprised by our politics and our convictions,
Right.
all of the above. And I think that could be said about a lot of pretty dark things, because yes, all of those questions led us to where we are, which is compassionate, curious,
Green friendly.
I think that this was
Gay.
instilled this was instilled in all of us from such a young age that it's okay to have differences and it's okay to learn from them.
Totally.
Man, I can't believe Arnold thinks Pigeon Man is so great now.
Yeah, who does he think he is?
Unfortunately, Harold and Stinky and another neighborhood kid that we don't really recognize look on from the sidewalk, and they get an idea.
Hey, wait a minute. I mean, if Pigeon Man's down here, who's back on the rooftop watching his pigeons?
Nobody, I guess.
So they come up with some dim-witted, half-baked plans to mess with his stuff.
These sons of bitches.
Yeah, you have to remember that this was only the 15th episode of the series, and I tend to forget myself that they were using Harold and Stinky in like more of the bully role.
They were.
For a while there, like they were kind of the bullies of the group before the advent of Wolfgang. So
Yeah, eventually they're cool.
yeah, it took
takes
time.
them a while.
But we watch as they climb to the roof, breaking beakers and spilling birdseed and mocking the Pigeon Man even in his absence. There are Looney Tune levels of chaos, and finally, the birds chase them out, leaving Vincent's home unrecognizable in their wake.
I laugh in the face of danger. It's that cliche thing that's like, well, you know, the cat's away, the mice will play.
This big, bad, scary man, I'm gonna go mess with his stuff, because he can't get me. I
Without
guess.
fear of repercussions.
Right.
And they were right,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, they were. And it's here that the creators make another rather grim point. Social isolation is not the only or even the worst penalty dealt to the different or the neurodivergent or the unhoused.
Ah.
There's a whole segment of the population that is, for little to no reason, actively antagonistic toward them.
People of privilege who forget.
People of
that-
privilege who forget that less fortunate people are still people, or who decide that they aren't.
There it is.
They're wrong.
Yeah.
On all counts. Instead of seeing merit in Arnold's connection with this misfit, or even empathizing as occasional misfits themselves, which they are,
Yeah.
or
of course.
even just moving on with their lives, these two jump into destructive, ignorant kid mode. And even as a kid, my blood was boiling.
Yeah.
The whole thing is painfully uncomfortable to watch, just as much back then as it is now.
Right.
But what I do appreciate is that it seems that they were not only aiming to turn a mirror on some of the more poorly adjusted kids that found themselves sat in front of Nickelodeon on a weeknight, but also commenting on or really lamenting our tendency as a society to demonize and attack those that we don't understand.
Two birds 2 pigeons.
2 pigeons.
1 episode.
Obviously, there are times when Hey Arnold is a show that appeals to that lowbrow, like slapstick humor. Like that happens. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of rumble tumble fights, bowling over people.
Don't hit me.
You know, like
I'll hit me.
that happens often. But this scene, the whole tone of it is not that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, even though it's something that would have been played for laughs in another context, they so clearly show it in a negative light.
It's played as a cruelty.
Yes, because it is a cruelty.
It's understood that
and they
this
want
is...
that to be apparent to the probably very young children that are watching. It's understood that this was the wrong decision, even though we don't see them pay for it necessarily. Mm-hmm. We didn't even need that payoff at the end, or that like they got theirs. We didn't even need to know
you don't need
that it was wrong.
Because like it's going another layer with it and saying, you know, just because you get away with something doesn't mean you were right to do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, wrong behavior doesn't always come with consequences. It can be wrong even if you got away with it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's a way to like tell kids like your moral compass is what can tell you what's right or wrong, not the consequences. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of kids don't know what's wrong.
Do a thing and wait for the consequence. Right.
For it. Right. And they think that they're, you know, oh, I got away with it. How cool. Like, how good am I? It's like, no, you should feel bad for what you did, even if no one knows you did it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's like, it's a nice, like, different way to go about that. And I kind of had a hard time, like from like a filmmaking perspective, I had a hard time pinpointing what exactly it is about the scene that feels that way, other than the fact that I'm approaching this scene as a people-pleasing, like very careful, very thoughtful, like person. Because for me, it's apparent from right out the gate to have the idea is wrong. Yeah. Well, I think it's like you take this grown man who is sad, but then you learn he's sad because he was bullied. You humanize him. Everybody every kid knows that feeling of being bullied. Yeah. They know, they have context for that. Mm-hmm. And so then they go, oh, this guy's bullied. He's sad. He's a good guy. Arnold likes him. We love Arnold. Arnold thinks he's great. Yes. So we know he's a good dude because Arnold likes him. Yep. And then for them to go just like totally destroy everything that makes him who he is, kids instinctually go, no, no, don't do that. No. It's so effective. Like that. It's so deeply emotionally embedded. It's a very emotionally intelligent way to go about this kind of a concept. I'm impressed. That's all I'm just saying. Impressive is what it is. When Arnold and Vincent return to pick up Chester, they find the place in total disarray.
What? This is awful. Who did this?
People, Arnold.
Arnold jumps into fixer mode, talking about repairing the cages and cleaning up, and he tells Vincent, don't worry, your birds will come back.
And sweep up. Your birds will come back.
Of course they'll come back. They're birds. I trust them. I understand them. It's people I don't understand. You see, Arnold, it's time for me to leave here. Some people are meant to be with people, and others, like me, are just different.
To which I say, no, Vincent, you deserve your community too.
I don't know.
Vincent would have thrived on TikTok. Let me tell you.
You think so? With
Vincent and his birds? Oh, yeah. Oh, there was hundreds of thousands of TikTokers just waiting for Vincent.
So he's just a man before his time.
Yeah, a man before his time, and it would have been too short-lived anyway.
Wait, none of this would have happened if I hadn't...
Arnold, don't be sad. You've taught me that some people can be trusted, and I'll never forget that.
Where will you go?
Somewhere I can live in peace with my friends.
He just wants to go somewhere he can live in peace with his friends, and that's all any of us want.
That's all he wants.
We all have the same core desires, most of us anyway. We all want the same things.
That's what I want.
We can be very different and still very the same, you know?
Yeah.
It gets me, man.
Me too.
With the golden sunset glinting off the rooftop and a forlorn yet triumphant score building behind them, Vincent explains.
You see, I have a mission to help pigeons everywhere. Wherever there's a bird in need of seed, I'll be there. Wherever there's a helpless flock suffering some abuse, I'll be there. Wherever there's a pigeon with a weak wing or a broken beak, I'll be there. I just hope there's another Arnold where I go next.
That's the part that got
I hope
me.
there's another Arnold wherever I go next.
That's the thing that got me, was that one line. I
too.
hope there's another Arnold.
I hope there's another Arnold. I'm always hoping there's another Arnold. Talk about like missing the mystery, like missing that, like the wonder and the not knowing and having life kind of in front of you. Like, I just want to meet more Arnolds.
Yeah, I think we should all be the Arnold that we wish to see in the world.
Amen. Snaps for that. Snaps for that. I really don't have words for how all of this made me feel as a kid. It was wistful, longing for some distant reality where people were better to each other, and even the pigeons didn't suffer. But I also always wondered if this speech was referencing something else, because it felt to me like an echo from another time. Sure enough, it is seemingly referencing Tom Joad's speech in Grapes of Wrath from the 1939 Steinbeck novel and 1940 film. Though technically commenting on two ends of the spectrum here, human cruelty in favor of animals in this case, and in the case of Grapes of Wrath, it's about the resilience of the human spirit.
Right.
These two speeches have oddly the same poignance and almost the same meaning to me. And I think that that was kind of the point.
Yeah, I think it has to be, for sure.
Tom Joad's speech instead says, then it don't matter. I'll be all around in the dark. I'll be everywhere. Wherever you can look. Wherever there's a fight so hungry people can eat, I'll be there. Wherever there's a cop beating up a guy, I'll be there. I'll be in the way guys yell when they're mad. I'll be in the way kids laugh when they're hungry and they know supper's ready. And when the people are eating the stuff that they raise and living in the houses they build, I'll be there too.
So good. So damn good.
Very moving. I recommend checking that out on YouTube because it had been a minute. I don't think I had watched it since, I think I watched it in school for something.
I've never seen the movie.
Moving performance. And obviously Steinbeck is Steinbeck for a reason.
He's a champ.
Ooh.
On the banned books list. So go give that a read.
Amen.
I've got some new hot feels about
the banned books.
Banned books here in Mobile County.
Yikes.
There's a lot going on right now.
Vincent approaches the ledge, tears in his eyes, as his pigeons find and tug at pulleys in the vest he's been wearing all along. They lift him up by these cords, and he levitates in the waning sunlight, turning to give Arnold one last parting word of wisdom.
Remember, Arnold, always wash your berries before you eat them. And fly toward the sun.
And then, cue melancholy credits music. This whole moment is just so Hey Arnold. It is so quintessentially Hey Arnold. There's a note of comedy encapsulated in this like moment of not quite triumph, not quite defeat, just something in between where we all live.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right as he birdmans himself off the edge of this building.
He does. And again, we don't revisit Chester or Arnold's friends or even the perpetrators. Joseph Purdy just left us hanging there post-ascent.
That's it.
In the stillness.
That is all he wrote.
Like Tom Joad,
wild.
I don't think we were ever meant to find out what happened to Pigeon Man or where the wind and his birds took him. I think we were supposed to grow up and subsist on the knowledge that he was everywhere and nowhere, friend to the friendless of Pigeon-kind.
Right.
And that would have been fine with me. However... Trigger warning, because this is pretty dark territory.
Sure is.
As we know.
We've finally gotten here.
But as time went on, rumors and theories, as you have said, started circulating on the internet that his ascent was, if not overt, at least a metaphor for suicide.
Just like Birdman.
Or worse yet, that there was an alternate ending where he did instead jump to his death.
There's no way.
Craig Bartlett himself has repeatedly gone on record to debunk this myth.
There's no way there's an alternate ending to this.
No, absolutely not.
That's a creepypasta, the Simpsons episode bullshit.
Yes.
Like, there's no way that's ever happened.
Nope, never happened, never was a thing, and according to Craig, was never even the metaphor.
Oh, wow.
He has clearly stated several times that there is absolutely no truth to this.
I never thought so.
So you heard it here, at least secondhand, Darklings. It was never the intent, and it's also the main reason why Pigeon Man was mentioned in Hey Arnold, the Jungle movie, where it said that Arnold inspired him to wander the world.
I like that. I never seen the Jungle movie.
And you guys know that if it were that dark, we would absolutely tell you. We're the ones that look for the darkness. And again, as someone with a podcast about all of the intentional and unintentional darkness held in the things we love, I really appreciate that Craig took the time to make it very clear that this was never the intention, and to allow us to rest easy, knowing that Pigeon Man is still out there caring with the best of them.
And, I think it's important to also say that I don't think Craig Bartlett was like too good for themes of suicide. Like, I think he's a very realistic person.
Yeah,
I think
if that had been the case,
I think if that was his intention, he would have done it in a very, artistic way that would have been similar to this, but I think it would have been very overt and it would have been very intentional and obvious.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the point he wanted to make with Pigeon Man. It wasn't what he was trying to do with the episode.
No.
So we're not saying that, this could never air on TV and a children's cartoon. It absolutely could, and it did, probably multiple times. But
I mean, Ghost Bride had like axe murders,
straight up axe murder in it,
depicted on screen, pretty much.
We're not saying it couldn't have been done. That's not why. The reason why it didn't happen is because that wasn't the point.
He was making a different point, and I hope it's a point that we've been able to like honor and bring light to today.
I think so. It's a hopefulness. It's a wistful hopefulness for better things out there in the world.
Correct.
Because we all need that hero. I mean, it's admittedly some sort of vigilante sort of comic book hero version of reality. And it is an urban legend. He still lives within the urban legend territory of something like the Goat Man.
Yes.
The Frog People. Like I think there's like a Rabbit Man somewhere. Like there's all these half human, half animal hybrids out there in the world. And all those stories are so fun and so great. And I think that the Pigeon Man is just like one of those overblown, over the top examples of it where, then we realize he is just a human who then can be parasailed away into the sunset by a bunch of pigeons.
Yeah. And wherever else he chooses to go.
A weird pulley system. Yeah. It's that constant blending and the merging of like the fantastic with reality.
Which is Hey Arnold in a nutshell.
The impossible with the mundane.
I think there's also something to be said for the irony of pigeons being deeply associated with messaging and communication and connection.
Yeah.
And yet Pigeon Man is kind of the epitome of isolation.
Right.
I think that there's a powerful irony there that they leveraged in a way that I didn't fully appreciate until now. We're all seeking connection, and he's so deeply connected to these birds who have this kind of understood societal purpose, and yet he's no closer to finding the connection that's going to make him, fulfilled in terms of human connection, except when he meets Arnold.
Right. Yeah. Arnold's like the inverse of him.
Yeah.
Using pigeons as like for connection, for messaging. It's that idea of like he's the old generation. He's a mirror image of what could be. It's a wonderful life concept of like, this is what could be if you choose to go down this path. Loneliness, isolation.
And what could be if society treats you that way. And Arnold is more an example of what could be, Helga is berating him for his pigeon hobby and any other hobby he has, but they're still friends. You know what I mean? Like he still has community.
I think it's more so if you let society beat you down.
That too.
To the point.
Yeah. If you internalize it, where does it take you? I don't want to victim blame to
Well, no, it's not about victim blaming. It's about he chose to retreat from society on purpose.
He did. Yeah. And he reaffirmed that choice as well. You're right.
This is just multiple layers to this conversation. And I think it's up to the individual to decide, what's a good outcome, or what's a positive approach to this.
For them, like what resonates and what makes it, what makes it hopeful for you. Because I do think it's meant to be hopeful at its core.
I think so too.
And the biggest question that I would like to pose, knowing what we now know, what if, instead of individuals and societies and systems that judge and isolate reflections of humanity that are special and different, we instead cultivated individuals and societies and systems that protected them and cared for them and approached them with curiosity instead of fear? What if we were creating and instilling those values that instead ask what we stand to learn instead of what we stand to lose?
Hey.
It's what I do with podcast research. It's what I try to do in life. Lead with curiosity Darklings. Lead with curiosity within yourself and without, and allow space for whatever unexpected beauty that you find without judging it.
I think it's a good word.
It's my word.
I'm here for
sticking to
that.
it.
Just
Thanks. Snaps. Yeah, that's the Pigeon Man.
that is the Pigeon Man. Damn.
I hope that even with all of the heaviness that's in our world lately and potentially more to come, that a few minutes spent here in Hillwood and with us, not only your ghost host, but all of your Darkling friends, has been some comfort to you.
Yeah, and if you're like me, there are going to be a lot of reasons, a lot of excuses to just lean into the Pigeon Man inside of you, to become your own Pigeon Man. But I would...
On the rooftop of your
I would
heart.
urge each and every one of you, including myself, I'm looking in the mirror, to be the Arnold, not the Pigeon Man,
Yeah.
in your own life. I
Yeah.
think it's... there is good there, but I think
Yeah.
the days of needing Pigeon Men are over. I think we need
Arnold's.
we
We
all
need
need
a lot
Arnolds
more Arnold's.
in the days to
I
come.
mean, there's something to be said for like protecting yourself, like knowing when, when you do need to retreat. But
Sure.
yeah, I think if we can all return to that Arnold energy.
Sure, all wounded animals isolate themselves and heal.
Yeah.
I think we all have our own wounded animal time where we need to retreat and
Schneider
heal
and me are wounded birds.
and come back to.
You know that reference?
I don't.
Boy Meets World.
It always comes back to Boy Meets World. Or Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Because lots of boys are always meeting the world, and other genders.
I'm trying to meet the world every day.
Me too. Thank you, Arnold Shortman. Thank you, Craig Bartlett. Thank you, Christian. Thank you to all of you, dear, beautiful, wonderful Darklings, who continue to encourage us and are finding your own ways to be Arnold in your own lives and with your own communities and people. We love you all dearly.
We do.
If you want to love on us some more, you can find us on social media at That's Pretty Dark Podcast on Instagram, where we just today hit 50,000
Ding 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 ding
followers.
ding 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 ding.
50,000 Darklings. Unreal, unbelievable.
50K.
We're so thankful.
50K.
Again, going back to our conversations from the campfire chat, it is always scary and great and awesome and awful because we don't know how much is really landing for you all out there in internet land, but interact with our posts if you do follow us, because that is one of the best ways to ensure that you keep seeing us on your feed.
Absolutely.
You can also get a whole feed of That's Pretty Dark on patreon.com/TPD podcast. For $5 a month, you can get a little bit extra in your
It's
ears.
pretty darkness and nothing but pretty darkness.
And like we were saying earlier, we want you to share with us whatever you feel like you can't share elsewhere. Hobbies, interests, things that made you happy, moments you felt like an Arnold, moments you felt like a Pigeon Man. You can share all of those with us, and any other childhood nostalgic feelings at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, you said it. That's right. We're here. We're waiting.
We're here, we're listening, you're listening, and I'm
They're
really
listening.
glad about it.
Someone's listening.
Someone's always listening.
Always watching, Wazowski.
Always watch. We'll be back to some Are You Afraid of the Dark antics soon.
Pretty soon. I'm in the process of moving right now. About to be
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah,
So I don't know what the next few weeks of my life look like, but we're going to do the best we can.
we are.
And please give us, allow a little bit of grace, a little bit of patience for us to get things
We
resettled.
appreciate that you guys always stick with us. We'll be sticking with you.
We're going to come back. If you don't hear from us and we're late, just know that we're going to show up eventually.
We are.
We're not gone. We're not going anywhere.
We always come back. Like a pigeon. Like a homing
That's
pigeon.
right.
You know?
Like a homing pigeon. That's right. Just feed us.
Just,
Give us food.
and we'll always return to the roost
The nest.
with our magnetoreception.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for listening.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. That's Pretty Dark Podcast is produced by Kaylin Andrews and me, Christian Baxter Mott.
With music by Jonathan Simmons and cover design by Halftone Horror.
You can support our show by supporting our sponsors, or go to patreon.com/TPD podcast to unlock all the Pretty Dark bonus content we have in store.
Please share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood on our socials or at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com.
For all other information, visit our website, that'sprettydark.com.
Remember, you're never really alone.
So, until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.